can you start by giving us some insight into the extent of homelessness in the UK?
Well, Gerald, we all know that homelessness is a growing problem. And I'm a technician, so I focus on the solving of the problems and not counting the numbers, because I know that it's growing, and just counting homeless people isn't going to help anybody. So, in direct answer to that question is I can't provide you with figures and this and the other, and it wouldn't be my intention to do so. But what we are doing is creating a range of digital solutions that can be utilised to deal with the wide range of problems that are behind homelessness.
So if you can tell us some of those solutions, because we really have got problems with social and individual, and the numbers of increased homelessness. I don't know whether you have any figures for the Oldham and Manchester area, but it seems to be growing inconsequentially, really.
Yes. Joel, I think that wherever you go in the country nowadays, you can't escape the fact that it's growing. And politicians talk about throwing more money at it, but you have to have a plan. Money won't solve the problem unless you have something to actually target it at. And things like building more houses. That is, people's problems are, if it's as simple as you had a row, it's a domestic row, a dispute, and you ended up, somebody stormed out the door and they're homeless. Well, yes, then, accommodation can solve that if that's all it was. But oftentimes it's much deeper than that. And so and social workers, I'm sure, will agree that it's not just, I'm an advocate of housing first. And I do get into debates with social workers about this, because the other approach is housing, is care first. And I think they're both absolutely equally as necessary. You can't provide care to someone who doesn't have a home, but home alone isn't the solution. People do need care. Our solution is we've created a number of mobile apps that put people in touch with what they need. So we have apps that provide employment, apps that enable people to donate to things to the homeless. We have apps that enable businesses such as restaurants and cafes and things like the takeaways to gift food and drink to the homeless people. They can be seen on the map. So homeless people can, so rather than go rifling through bins, they can look on this app and they can look on the map and see who are nearby them, their current position, who is actually offering food and drink. The whole system is geared to, effectively, it's infrastructure that allows people to get involved themselves. There's so many people out there who want to help, but there's no mechanism to enable them to help. So this is a facilitator, an enabler. It basically says these apps will let you do what you can to help your fellow man.
Yeah.
As for the shelter bit, Gerald, that we have created micro dwellings, and some of the apps allow people to book a shelter so they don't have to be rough sleeping. Another one of the apps allows homeless people, when they're in a desperate situation, they can press a button and their position is shown to first responders. In another app, their position is shown on the map so they don't die in a ditch.
Yeah, a couple of things have occurred to me while you were speaking, Trevor. Mm-hmm. One is, first of all, a person has to have access to either a computer or a mobile, and perhaps in a homeless situation they might not have. And I don't know whether I picked up the vibes, but you seem to be a little bit critical of the social business. And here in Greater Manchester, we've a Lord Mayor, Andy Burnham, who's trying to provide a bed every night. If you could just address those two issues, please.
Well, first of all, we provide mobile phones as part of our solution. We will be providing mobile phones, and we're talking to telecoms companies at the moment to facilitate that. What was the other question, Gerald?
Well, I don't know whether it was implicit, but I picked up the vibes that you were saying that the technical approach is better than the social approach.
I'm not saying it's better. What I'm saying is that at the moment, the social approach, it's disconnected. There's no consolidated or centralized methodology, and so you get duplication of effort. You get people falling through the gaps, between two stools and all that sort of thing. What we're trying to do is provide the infrastructure to help these organisations do what they do. So we're not in any way. In fact, we see ourselves, because our system is fund generating. We see ourselves as a funding source, and we want to work with existing charities and organisations and help fund them to do what they do. We are not social workers; we're technicians. We approach this from the perspective of build it and they will come. We didn't spend years on market research. We basically just looked at the figures and said there's a lot of homeless people and a lot of people are suffering. So, obviously there's a demand. We know we can build a solution. Build it and then let the world know about it and they can use it. This system provides funding for the sort of projects that Andy Burnham is behind. The intention is that it's a self-funding ecosystem, and what it does is it provides services to businesses and which it sells to generate the revenue to fund social reform. And in that process, it provides employment for people who would otherwise not be able to get employment because they're trapped in that no home, no job, no job, no home cycle. And we can provide homes and employment as well.
I think somewhere in Manchester, one of the banks in Manchester, one of the building societies in Manchester, has started a recent project where you don't have to have an address in order to have a bank account.
Yes, I've heard this.
All right. Now, what do you say about that?
Well, I think that's very important. In fact, we housed 5 homes people in September, which was a bit of a tester for us. And one of the biggest problems there was that there was one person in particular who had been entitled to all sorts of entitlements that he'd not been receiving, simply because, for 2 reasons. One is he had difficulties getting to grips with the forms, and the other was that he didn't have a bank account. And we stepped in and we literally sat down with him and helped him through the forms, which got him processed in the things he was entitled to straight away. And then we also bridged that gap where he didn't have the appropriate bank account. A bank account's doing that would we had acted as a guarantor effectively, but it brought home to us. It was all very well as a one-off. We obviously couldn't do that, indefinitely, but it brought home the need to be able to make it easier because it's an identity thing. Bank accounts are used as a fundamental part of of a person's identity. If you don't have one, then you're scuppered. And so I applaud what's happening there with that building society.
Excellent. Now, if there's someone listening who is homeless, or they don't know where they're going to be sleeping tonight, or someone who knows someone who is homeless, Trevor, what advice are you going to give them to get involved with this?
Well, in the first instance, I would ask them to go to our website. The contact numbers and things are there. And the website is www.kanndoo, spelled KANNDOO.org.
Yes.
A lot of what we're doing is still in the release stage and in the experimental stage. So we're going to be a bit fluffy around the edges at the moment. But, it was a case of we wanted to let the world know what was coming. And we're launching a bulk of these apps. Some are there already. They're early versions, and they're like all of these things, they're a bit sort of hit and miss in the first instance. But we're launching more throughout January and the beginning of next year. So we want to be in a position where this is fully functional and life saving. In time for the winter, next winter. I don't know if we're ready in any volume this year. But the more people that get involved now, the more it helps us and encourages us to keep going with this.
Yeah, Trevor, my co-presenter this morning is Bruce, who's been listening on his headphones, and he's just waved at me. I think he would like to have a question himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Far away, Bruce.
Hi there. Nice to talk to you. I'm just wondering, we're looking really at a system which is cure rather than prevention, isn't it?
Yes.
How do we address stopping homelessness from happening in the first place? At which point in people's lives do you think something could be done to prevent people falling into the trap in the first place?
Bruce, that's a very good question. And I think this. I think that life will always throw curveballs. I think that life is like being a trapeze artist. And I think that the likelihood of falling at some point or another is always there. And I think that we cannot wrap ourselves in cotton wool to that extent. And I don't think we can prevent the issues that cause this, domestic disputes, addictions of one form or another. They'll always be present. And I think that what we need is a safety net. And this, as a solution, is a system that is able to be self-funding, self-financing ecosystem that allows the haves to help the have-nots. And despite popular belief, not all of the rich want to see the demise of the poor, and a lot of people do care, and they would like to help. They don't know how. What we're doing is providing a structure, the infrastructure, a system that allows people to help. I see it time and time again where I see on Facebook where people are saying, I have this, I'd like to give it away, but when I take it there, they end up dumping it, or or whatever. They don't, things are not getting through to those who need it. And so what we've done is created a digital infrastructure that allows people to give directly to those who need, and whether it be jobs, training, just household furniture, whatever it might be, we've provided that mechanism, Bruce.
Right.
Trevor, can I say thank you very much for your time this morning? Really
interesting,
and wish you all the success in the world with that.
Thank you very much.
Really does sound wonderful. And for our listeners' sake, just give us one more website address, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Indeed, it's www.kanndoo, spelt KANNDOO.org.